Okay, so for the professional year application, it's in the same application form, or DRF, but that just basically means application form. It's in the same one as the teacher ed application form. So, Cami, what you'll do is you'll just go right back into this same form where you filled out your teacher ed application, scroll down past teacher ed, past the interview stuff until you find the professional year section. And really the kind of what the requirements are for professional year are much simpler, like I said, than or minimal compared to teacher ed. So the application form is the same, where it asks you for your name, your major, etc. Same thing if you're not reapplying. If this is your first time applying to professional year, then just leave this section blank. The kind of the new pieces for professional year that are a little different than teacher ed is we do ask you to attach your current resume. And so if you don't have one yet, the Career Center is a great resource, but whatever kind of your current professional resume looks like right now, that's something we want you to attach. And really kind of the purpose of this is mostly for practice, because you're very soon going to be submitting your resume when you apply for jobs. And so this way you can really kind of get a jump on perfecting it and getting it ready to go. Your Praxis Twos, this is really the big section of the professional year application. You just have to, just like you did for teacher ed, except you're art ed, so you didn't take that, just kidding. You will just attach your art Praxis 2 scores here, the official PDF score sheet that you got from ets.org, just attach it here. And then really the last piece is that background check. And the background check packets, if you haven't picked one up already, they are outside of our temporary office. So instead of being on the 7th floor, the teacher ed office for now is located in room 222 of the education building. So we're only up one flight of stairs, which is awfully nice. And so you can pick up that background check packet at any point. They're just outside the door. And then you can also turn it back in at any point, because we have a drop box on the door. So even though our office hours are very limited, you can pick that up and drop it off at any point in time. The only thing that we ask you to do on TaskStream for this piece of it is just to tell us when you dropped off your fingerprint cards. So, you turned it in on September 12th. And that just lets us know kind of if for some reason we can't find it, or if it has gone missing, or if you turn things in and like your check or your processing fee separate from something, then we can track it a little bit better. So that's really all for that. The resume, so the packet has all the instructions you will need. So you'll just pick it up, you'll fill it out per the instructions, take it to the specific police department office in Meridian. That's all detailed on there. And then it tells you exactly what to turn back into our office. And if you're dropping it, especially if you're dropping it off in the Dropbox, if you could just staple everything together to make sure that we have all of your materials for the packet, that would be great. Okay, Shelley, did I forget anything?
No, that sounds good. I'll just reiterate though that you'll have 5 things when you return your packet. You will have your fingerprint card as well as a check or money order made payable to the Idaho State Department of Education, or ISDE for short, in the amount of $28.25, and that is what they use towards doing the background investigation check. And then you'll have 3 forms that you need to submit as well.
Perfect, thank you. And I think actually I am not going to open the chat on mine because I'm sharing my screen. So if Brad, if you wouldn't mind for now, just if anything comes up in the chat, just jumping in.
Yep.
Thanks. Okie dokie. All right. Well, that's professional year. So for everyone applying to teacher ed, look what you have to look forward to. That's super easy. Not that teacher ed isn't, but professional year is, it has fewer components. So, alrighty. So back to the beginning. So the starting point for applying to teacher ed is if you go to our teacher ed website here, there is a tab with all the information that you need about applications. So start there, and then if you scroll down, number one, you'll see the deadline with a very intimidating countdown. 15 days is plenty of time, so no one panic. The seconds is a little off-putting, but other than that, and then the first thing that you'll do, if you haven't done so already, is you'll complete a really brief survey to request the codes that you need in order to, number one, create your TaskStream account, because it's free, you do not have to pay for it, you just need the code to do that. And number two, to add that teacher ed application to TaskStream. So if you're a little confused or not totally sure about any of the questions again, it's pretty simple, but if you're unsure about any of the questions in the survey, that's fine. Just know that the survey is kind of the starting point, the trigger point. It just comes to me, and then I just double check to make sure that it looks like you are ready to be applying. So if this is your first semester and you're a freshman and you haven't taken any education courses yet, this lets me take a look, reply to you and say, hey, just kidding, you'll apply in 3 semesters. But again, know that kind of the survey is just the starting point. And so if you're not exactly sure what your cumulative education GPA is, that's okay. We will check that later on. So this is the first piece here. So basically you'll fill this out, it will generate an email to me, and then I will reply to you with the code to create your account and to add the application. If you have filled this out and you haven't heard from me yet, I've been pretty good about this, at least this semester. Know that sometimes the system is a little glitchy, and so you'll think you submitted it, but for some reason it didn't officially go through. So please just reach out to me and just say, hey, I think I sent this in, and I will check the sort of in progress box where things get held. So if it's been more than 8 hours since you submitted it, just please let me know and I'll send it to you. Okay, and then you are all here, yay. So if you have friends who are very excited to see our show, then you can tell them that we have 2 more presentations, one next week and one the following week. The 15th, that gives you basically 2.5 days to finish, hopefully, the application before it's due. So I would highly encourage coming a little bit earlier, but if people have follow-up questions, we will be doing this on the 15th as well. Okay, so now let's go back in. Let's say that, actually, let me pause. Does anyone have a question about that piece of it? No, okay. So then let me go back, maybe. Come on. Nice if this would load. Okay, so when you start following those instructions that I gave you, it's going to give you the information on how to create your account. And then when you log in, your account is initially going to be blank. So you won't see any of these unless the only exception would be if you've taken LLC 340. You do use TaskStream in that course. And so you might have something on here for that class, but you're not going to see any of these. So the second document that I send you that gives you the code to add this application, the Teacher Ed Professional Year application, you're just going to click this button down here, type in the code that is something like applications F17, and then that is going to add this program here. And you won't have either of these other 2, those don't apply to you, just this one is the only one that you need. Please don't be put off by the fact that it looks like it's referring to fall 17. That was just the year that we updated this. So this is still the current correct application form. All right, so then really the things kind of in general, the things that need to be done by September 18th at 5 p.m. are all of these sections underneath the Admission to Teacher Ed header. So the first one is just like what I had briefly spoken about for professional year. This application form is just going to ask you all of your basic information, your name, email, what's your major, if you have an endorsement area. The part that sometimes people have questions about here is the adjudication form. So basically this is asking you, have you ever been arrested? Have you ever had a minor in possession? Have you ever broken the student code of conduct here at Boise State? We just need you to disclose that. And so if you have, you would just let's say I got a minor in possession, I would check yes here. And if I had not previously been cleared by the Professional Standards and Appeals Committee, this is a committee within the College of Ed. So if you had gone through an adjudication process through like the student conduct office, that's separate. This is really just an education based committee. And so if you haven't yet submitted paperwork and been cleared by this committee, then you would say no, and you would need to submit the paperwork for this adjudication appeal. What we can do, and Brad, if you can help me remember, maybe at the end we can post in the chat the link to where the adjudication paperwork is, like on the website. That way folks, if they need it, would have access to it. If I say it out loud, then hopefully someone will remind me at the end. If you have already been, like let's say you, whatever your situation was, you were already cleared when you had to fill out the adjudication paperwork for LLC 200 or a lower division course, then you can just say, yes, I was already cleared, and I was cleared in May 2020. So again, if the Professional Standards Committee has already reviewed that one kind of incident, then you don't have to be reviewed again. You just have to let us know when you were cleared. This lovely little pop-up button here, or pop-up box here, this is really, if you remember one thing from this workshop, it would probably be the submission button. The thing that I don't like about TaskStream is that you can see you have all these sections to fill out. There's no submit all button. You have to submit each of these sections as you complete it. And so if you leave one of the required sections kind of in progress and not submitted, then by September 18th, your application shows up as incomplete. And when we run a report to kind of gather all the applications together, yours isn't going to show up. So the tab that will be your friend here is the Scores Results tab, because that's going to show you kind of what your progress or your status is for each of these sections. So basically what you want is by September 18th at 5 o'clock, you want a nice list of green check marks that say submitted. Now, leading up to September 18th, if you submit this form and then you're like, oh shoot, I wrote something incorrectly, there's an option to cancel your submission. So you can do that before the deadline if you do need to edit anything or add anything for that. Okay, so that is the application section. Any questions on that? All right, beautiful. The reapplying section, oh, sorry.
On the application to teacher education, mine has a lock that is red. What does that mean?
That means that you had likely previously submitted it. And so someone in our office, Shelly, would need to unlock your account. at least right, Shelley, that's probably what that means. So if you want to,
That's correct.
yeah. Okay, so if you want to just send Shelley an email with your name and your student ID number, then she can unlock that account for you so you can continue editing it. Okay. All right, so this reapplying section, this only applies if you have previously applied for teacher ed in an earlier semester and you were denied and now you're applying again. So in that case, all of the materials that you submitted for each of these sections before will still be here. And really, if nothing has changed, you don't have to resubmit anything. The only thing that you would change in that case is to attach a brief document here explaining kind of why you're reapplying. So you could say, you know, last semester I applied, but I didn't get my Praxis test done. And so I'm taking them in a week, and so I'm reapplying for this semester. Really just kind of letting us know the reason you were denied, what's different now, why you're reapplying. So again, that can either be an attachment or you can write it in a text box. If this is your first time applying to teacher ed, you can just ignore this. You don't have to put anything here. All right, the letter of application. So this is the first of the two written pieces that you'll do for the application. Your letter of application, you can think of it as a cover letter like you would write for a job application, in the sense that it is a letter. So you could address it to, you know, Dear Teacher Ed Program Admissions Committee. I am excited to apply for the teacher ed program, blah, blah, blah. So this letter, you can see here that we give you specific prompts as to what we want you to write about in the letter. But the most important thing is that we hear your voice. So this whole application process is about you. Like, why are you here? Why do you want to teach? What drives you? What are your goals? Kind of all of that. That's what we want to come through in the letter. And so, yes, it is important that you use professional language and you spell check it, and it's not, you know, a mess of a letter, but we aren't looking for this to be an essay. So this isn't like, per my EdCifs 203 course, this is a, hey, this is me, this is what drives me, you know, I have this specific experience that really changed my life, and that's why I want to teach. You know, that's really what we're looking for here. This should be about a page and a half max. Your interview committee would, as much as they can't wait to get to know you, they really don't want to read 12 pages about everything that's ever happened to you in your life. So please do keep it somewhat brief as well. Okay, Brad, did I forget anything, or do we have any questions? Okie dokie.
Can I ask a quick question about application form?
Sure.
So I'm a Spanish secondary ed major, but I'm also doing my endorsement in English teaching. So on that section where it says major, so I put Spanish secondary ed, do I put English also in the endorsement area, or do I put Spanish there?
Put English there.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
Sounds good, thank you.
Sure. Okay, so the next one here, the Praxis 1 or the core math praxis, this only applies to elementary ed majors, special ed, early childhood, any of our dual majors. Secondary ed majors are not required to take this particular praxis test. So if you are a secondary ed major, you don't have to fill anything out in this category. For all of you whose majors are housed here in the College of Education, what we're looking for here is that official PDF score sheet that ETS makes available to you once you've passed the test. So you take the math praxis test, it's test 5733 if you haven't taken it yet. And then in a few weeks after you've taken it, you get an email from ETS saying, hey, your official scores are in. You log into your account, and then you you can access this PDF that you need to download and save somewhere safe because this is your official score. This is how, if a school district or, you know, future employer or us right now, if we ask for confirmation that you passed this test, that score sheet is what we want. So you can see here, there's an attachment. So you can just attach it once you have that. If you, maybe you took it once, you haven't passed it, and you're registered to take it again September 19th, then what we would like you to do is to attach your receipt showing when you're registered to take it again. So it'll be that confirmation saying, yep, you've paid for it, you're taking it on the 19th. And then in the text box section, you can explain it to us. The thing here is, if you have any sort of extenuating circumstance, or if you have anything other than a passing Praxis score, the more information you can give us, the better. Let us know when you're registered to take it. If something came up during your, you know, maybe you were taking it at home and your computer froze and whatever it was, please give us as much information as possible here.
Gabby, does that answer your question?
Maybe.
I think so. She was asking if she had to have the score by September 18th, and no, you do not.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. So if you don't have that passing score by the 18th, just tell us as much as you can about when you're taking it, etc. Okie dokie. All right. So anything here with a green question mark, a green circle next to it, that means that there's nothing that you have to submit on TaskStream for this requirement. So the Teacher Ed GPA, all of this information is really just a reminder to say, hey, remember, you need a 3.0 cumulative GPA, you need a 3.0 in your education courses, and you need a 3.0 in your endorsement courses. When we process applications, we check all of this. So this is really just like a reminder for you as we go. Okay, so your case study response, this is the second written piece of the application. This, you'll see here that the directions are going to give you two hypothetical situations, and we ask you to choose one of them to respond to. Just one, not both. And then really kind of what we're looking for is one of these situations are, you know, hypothetical based in reality situations that you might encounter as a teacher. And we want to hear how you would think through it. So, so again, going back to that, please let us hear your voice. This isn't, you're not being evaluated for, did you get the right answer or not? You're evaluated for, okay, well, you know, based on kind of what I know about this, I would ask this question, or I would want to consider this factor and this factor. You know, the more you can kind of get us in your head and explain what you would do, why, the reasoning, that's what we're looking for. This again is not a novel. This is 2 pages max. The other thing on here is you can see that the rubric that will be used to evaluate your case study is on here. We put it on here not because we want you to write to this rubric, because to be perfectly honest, it really doesn't matter what the score on your case study is. We're looking for growth. So if, let's say you got a 1.5 for focus, a 2 on inquiry, and a 1.5 on inform when your case study was evaluated, that doesn't mean you're not accepted. Nope, it really doesn't have any impact on that. This allows us to say, okay, when you go through the next 2 years of the program, we want to see growth. So as long as you start somewhere and by the time you graduate, you're moving forward, that's really what the whole purpose of using this evaluation, the reflection rubric is. So we attach it here, not because we want you to write to it, but because we think that you should know kind of what we're looking for with this as well. So this one, you'll see here, it doesn't give you the option to attach a Word doc. It just gives you a text box for submission. So I highly recommend writing this in a Word doc, saving your Word doc, and then copying and pasting it into this text box, because you know this is when your computer is going to decide to freeze if you just kind of freestyle right in this box. So please don't let that happen to you. Okay. What did I forget? Brad, do we have questions or? No?
No, that was good.
Okay. Alrighty, so the next two pieces on here, these surveys, these are mostly, well, they serve two purposes. So they're really for us, for program growth, and they're also used to help self-assess your growth through the program. So you do need to complete these surveys in order for your application to be complete and to be processed. But what your answers are to the survey questions has absolutely no bearing on whether or not you're admitted to the program. These questions we use to kind of, because we'll have you take this survey before you graduate again as well. And so maybe right now you feel, I don't know, intimidated by making a lesson plan, or you're really nervous about one particular aspect of student teaching, or you feel unprepared. When you take the survey again later, maybe now you feel great, and that allows us to see how you've grown through this process. The other thing, we want you to be totally honest, because the other thing is, if there's a question that says, you know, how prepared do you feel to do this? Or based on your experience in the program so far, do you feel ready for this? And you don't, let us know, because we want your feedback, because it's on us to make our program better and better and better as we go. And we want to hear kind of what works for you and what doesn't. So long-winded way of saying, please just fill these out and be honest. What your answers are have no bearing on your admission to the program. Okie dokie. The last piece on here for the stuff that's required prior to September 18th is the $50 application fee. So I said earlier that we are no longer on the 7th floor thanks to COVID. We are in room 222 in the education building. So anytime before September 18th at 5 o'clock, you can turn in a check or money order, no cash, no cards, for $50. That is made out to Boise State University. You can turn that in either in person to our office, you can put it in the drop box outside of our office, and you can also mail it in if that's easier for you. If you don't have checks, I think Winco is the cheapest place to get a money order. I believe it's about 48 cents to get a money order there. Just make sure that that you put your, I think it's on here. Yeah, that you make sure to include your student ID number on your check or money order. I think once we had someone's like grandma write the check for them, and so it had grandma's name, and we're like, we have no idea like who this connects to. So please make sure we know that if you pay, that it's your money, and we can check you off the list for that.
I have a question about that.
Yeah.
I mailed mine this morning, and it was a money order, and I was wondering, when do I know you guys have it?
That is a great question. Have we thought about that, Shelley?
Typically, when we start processing applications is when we assess whether or not we have that. I can watch out for it, and you're welcome to shoot me an email and I can let you know that I received it. But typically, you won't know that we got it. You'll only hear from us regarding your fee if we don't have it. And that would certainly be after the application deadline. But if you want to confirm, just like I said, shoot me an email and I'll watch.
Okay, thank you. I'll keep in contact with you.
Okay.
There's always something new, and this semester there are plenty of new things. Okay, so we are ready then to move on to the interview, and I will turn it over to Brad.
Yeah, and actually, if Shelley, if you want to share kind of what the initial process of scheduling the interview first, and then I can kind of dive into the actual interview.
Yeah, I will just say that this is mostly applicable for elementary education majors, what Brad's going to talk to you about. But I realize we have a Spanish secondary education and also an English teaching major in this group. So I just want you to know that you will be hearing from your program coordinators. So Kelly Arispe for world languages and Amber Warrington for English teaching are the people that you should be hearing from. But I will also just quickly let you know that we plan on having the applications processed within 2 weeks of your submitting them. In fact, probably sooner, because you'll be receiving a letter as an elementary education major from myself inviting you to interview, or whatever your application status is, you'll be hearing from me regarding that. So look for that. Again, Shelley Jund. And those letters I'm hoping to have to you by the end of the first week in October. And then interviews themselves will be conducted in the next 3 weeks. So everybody should, unless you're for some reason a late interview, everybody should have interviewed, I believe, by the 23rd of October. And when you receive that letter, I would highly recommend that you sign up for an interview immediately. There will be a link and possibly also a Zoom link. But the link to schedule your interview will take you to an appointment page, 30-minute appointment slots, and sign up only for one, because if you sign up for two thinking, hey, I want to keep my option open for this day or that day, you're taking away those slots from other students. And I will either cancel one of them or I will email you and ask you which one you want, but just sign up for one and do so as quickly as possible. And another good thing to mention is that you're going to want to be logged into your Bronco Mail account when you do so. Oftentimes students are in their personal accounts, and I prefer to communicate with you via Bronco Mail. Any questions for me?
So the interview is for elementary and secondary?
Secondary education program coordinators do conduct interviews, but they are the ones who will reach out to you and schedule them. They may do things slightly differently, but everybody who is applying to teacher ed is required to do an interview.
So
What program are you in, McCrae?
I'm in the history program, so I'll be doing an interview with some other people.
With history department.
So yeah, you will be interviewing with, I would imagine, John Yasursa and John Beater. I'm sorry, I didn't realize we had a history major as well. But in that case, they asked me to support them. Most other programs handle it themselves, so you will hear from me as a history major.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that all you got, Shelley?
It's all that I have. If there's no other questions, I'll let you take over, Brad.
All right. So with regards to the actual interview, as Shelley said, that the interview will be different within each program. So the program coordinators will let you know kind of what that process will be. I will say though, and I'll talk about in a little bit, is that all programs, you will be evaluated the same way across all programs. We use a dispositions rubric where we've identified 4 key dispositions. And so I'll talk about that later. So all programs will be evaluated the same, just the process may look a little different. So for me here, being within elementary ed, special ed, early childhood, I'll talk a little bit more so towards that group in terms of the actual interview process. And then I'll talk about the evaluation. So what Rachel has up here right now is the interview outline. And so some of you, potentially in world languages and English and history, there may be something like this, but it may not look the same. So for elementary ed, special ed, early childhood, you will, so as part of the interview, you will be giving up to an 8-minute presentation. And when I say presentation, don't think of, oh, I need PowerPoint slides and all this. It's a speech, really. And what that 8-minute presentation is it's going to be based off of these prompts that you see here on the interview outline. Why do you want to teach? What goals should a good educator attempt to accomplish with students? Which areas of professional skills development do you identify as your strengths and areas of growth? What are your future professional goals? And so you're going to create a presentation that addresses each of these areas. And again, up to 8 minutes. It doesn't have to be 8 minutes. So it's okay if you're a little short. Now, if it's a minute and a half, you probably haven't covered all of this, right? So, but don't feel as though, oh my gosh, it was only 6 minutes. That's okay, as long as you're covering all of these areas. And what you'll need to do prior to, so everything that Rachel talked about was everything that needs to be done by September 18th, by that deadline. What I'm talking about now happens after the deadline. So when you go through that process with Shelley or with your program coordinators for those in secondary ed, you'll schedule an interview. And so say your interview is October 10th. I have no idea what day of the week that is. It might be a Saturday. But October 10th is your interview. You will need to post an interview outline within 24 to 48 hours prior to your interview. So that gives the interview team an opportunity to look over your outline. One key point with regards to the interview outline, it is an outline. So don't write out your entire speech verbatim. Myself as an interviewer, that drives me crazy, where I'm sitting there listening to you say it and I'm actually reading it word for word. So use it as an outline. So it would be like, all right, so Roman numeral 1 or A, why do you want to teach? And then bullet point, Mrs. Smith, my second grade teacher, or whatever it might be, and just do bullets down. Strengths, areas of growth. Strengths, I think, are patience, I'm curious, areas of growth, conflict, dealing with conflict. So, and then in your presentation, you're going to talk to those. So consider the outline more as a way for the interview team to kind of just follow along, not to have to read your actual presentation as well. So that would be the advice with the interview outline. Now, for the interview itself, and I would really say that this can, this may be similar to other programs as well, as so then after your 8 minutes that you're talking, then it's open to discussion. So your interview team, and again, this will be more towards elementary, special, early, will usually consist of it's a panel interview. It's usually 3 individuals. So it may be oftentimes how we've done it in the past, interview teams will be different across the board. Team I'm on, it's myself and another faculty member, and then we may bring in a teacher from the district. And so you have different stakeholders on the interview team. And that discussion is really just going to be based off of a lot of things. So one, Rachel had talked about your case study. So we look at that and we'll review that. And if any questions arise from there, your letter of application. So as Rachel mentioned, brief, 1.5 pages. That's like an initial look into you for us on the interview team. And then your presentation furthers that. And so we'll use all of that information, to prepare up front, and then listen to your presentation, and then ask you questions, challenging questions, and know one important thing I think with the interview. I know it's a very stressful scenario, and it's good if you are, because that means you're passionate about it, and this is important to you. But know that those 3 to 4 people sitting across from you, they're not there judging you. They're there to support you and evaluate you. So it's important, one, to be genuine. So say exactly what you feel, what your beliefs are about teaching and learning. Don't try to say what you think they want to hear, because that will just catch you up. And two, interviewers may catch when you have anything that's conflicting in what you said. And the other point to that is our program is built on a developmental model. So we're not expecting you to be an amazing educator right now. There's a reason why you're going through the program. It's to get to that point. And so through that development, it's really about the more genuine you are, just like to Rachel's point with the case study as well, and in your presentation and in your answers to questions during the discussion, then we are able to provide you better, more constructive feedback that can help you in those areas of growth. If you're not genuine, then we don't see that. And so the more upfront, genuine you are, the better we can help serve you and help you develop throughout the program. So be open. Consider it as an opportunity for that constructive feedback. That's what it's meant to be, not as a judgment. Now, the way that we evaluate, and this is across programs, so we have identified, and you can even close this too, Rachel, if you want. Either way.
Okay. Yeah, I don't see the.
Yeah, I don't think it's on there.
Okay.
So I'll just speak to it. So the way we evaluate across programs is through teacher dispositions. So we have identified 4 key dispositions for a quality educator. And those are the dispositions of character, care, pedagogical stance, and professional commitment. And so within each of those areas are subcategories that we're looking for. So within the disposition of character, we're looking at your self-awareness. So your ability to identify your own strengths, areas of growth. So how aware are you of yourself, who you are as a learner, who you are as an educator. It also includes balance. So how well are you able to balance not only in a professional setting, but also personally, so your own self-care as well. We look at humility within the disposition of character. That is showing, so are you open to making mistakes and that you're going to fail and admit when you don't know something. Another disposition would be care, and so that's looking at receptivity, connectivity, and inclusivity. And so that's looking at, well, how receptive are you to others, to other ideas, other perspectives? How well can you connect with others, developing relationships with others? Inclusivity, being inclusive of all perspectives, all ideas, being open to giving a voice to all your students, all your learners. The third disposition would be your pedagogical stance. So one part of that is your educator identity. So how you identify as a teacher, as a learner, what are your being able to effectively articulate your beliefs about teaching and learning. So who are you, and who are you as a future educator? It also includes adaptability. So how well we are able to adapt to different situations, how flexible we are to different ways of doing things and experiencing things. Also recognizing that things aren't going to always work the exact way we want them to, and so how we are able to adapt in those situations. Also includes a capacity for change. So as learning is a lifelong process, so we're constantly evolving and changing, and so what is our capacity to do so? Do we get fixed in a way and no, this is the only way to do it, or are we open to those other ideas and open to trying them? And understanding that right now you have certain assumptions about teaching and learning, and by the end of this program, those assumptions are likely going to be very different. And so having that capacity to change. In fact, I teach class 400, Ed says 400, which is all the student teachers in their final semester. A lot of them had me previously a couple years ago in a class, and talking to them the other night, their assumptions about teaching and learning have completely changed. And so they have that capacity for change. The last disposition would be professional commitment. This is about being professional, having professionalism. So respecting others, communicating in a respectful way, dress, all of those pieces that encompass professionalism. Also advocacy. Oftentimes when we hear advocacy, we go straight to being an advocate for a student, which is extremely important. But this also entails not just students, but it's also being an advocate for yourself, as well as being an advocate for the profession, for the teaching profession, for education, being an advocate within your community as well. And then the last piece within professional commitment is dedication. So how dedicated are you? How passionate are you about teaching, about learning along the way? So across all programs, we're looking during this, whatever that interview process looks like, we're looking at these various dispositions. And some of these questions will be related towards those dispositions within the discussion as well. So with all that said, I would say main takeaway is it's okay to be nervous, but know that this is a real opportunity for you to really show, yes, I am passionate about this. I want to be a teacher and this is who I am. And then to get constructive feedback, because that's what we're there for. We're there to help you develop and grow as you go through the program. And so take in that feedback. One question that does come up often too, and this looks pretty similar, I believe, across programs as well, is with the acceptance decisions. So we would have, there's multiple decisions after the interview. So after you've conducted the interview, then what will happen is you'll receive a letter afterwards, or communication from the program coordinator about the decision. So it could be fully admitted. Now, what I'll say with fully admitted, most, in particular in elementary, special, and early childhood, this is who I'm talking to right now, most will not be fully admitted because there may be some sort of condition. You may be in a course that's required, but you're able to apply, so it's in progress. And so there may be some sort of condition along the way. And so a conditional admittance means that you are admitted into the program. So you're not denied if it doesn't say fully admitted, if it says conditional admitted, we have multiple different conditions as well. So there's an academic condition. So that would be pending coursework. So you're in EdSys 203 this semester, or EdESP 250. And so what we'll do is we'll check that you pass the course at the end of the semester, and so you've met that condition. Or maybe you haven't taken and passed the Praxis yet, and you're registered ahead. There will be the condition of you passing that prior to being able to take upper division courses. The other academic condition would be GPA. So if we'll check GPAs to make sure that at least within, again, elementary, special, early childhood, at a 3.0. So those would be all conditions, academic conditions. The other conditional acceptance would be a dispositional condition. And so with the disposition condition, so as I just mentioned, we're evaluating based off of those 4 major disposition areas. It could be during the interview, there may be something that arises that the interview team believes that the teacher candidate needs further work on, that maybe this isn't something that's just going to be developed throughout the program, that they need some one-on-one work with somebody. So as I mentioned before, we're built on a developmental program. So we're here to help you continue that development. In that case, so the interview team would list certain reasons for a disposition conditional. So it could be needs to better articulate their pedagogical stance, or needs to think about self-care options, whatever that may be. And so what happens in those cases, you end up being assigned a faculty advocate who will work with you, create a development plan, and work with you throughout that process, working on those specific areas. And you're able to continue to move forward in the program at that point. In that case, you end up re-interviewing to show what you've done through that development plan. But again, you're continuing to move forward. Then the final, so we have fully admitted, we have conditional admitted for academic reasons, for dispositional reasons, and then there would be denial. And so if you were denied for any reason, whether it was based off of the interview, which is, I will say, is highly unlikely in most situations, but I can never say never. But if for any reason though too, where if you had an academic condition and you ended up not meeting it, then you would be denied at that point. So you have a course, you're taking at ESP 250, and at the end of the semester you don't pass it. So then you haven't met that condition. So then that would be denial. Then that would be going back where Rachel was talking about earlier about reapplying to the program and going through it. Okay, I was rambling on a lot there, saying a lot of information. Any general questions about the interview, the process?
I have a couple.
Okay.
I was going to ask if like notes during the interview is inappropriate.
Excellent. You know what? I'm so glad you said that. So a couple, and that just reminded me, since it's been a while since we've done this, of other things that I talk about during this. So the actual interviews, and again, this will be focused a little bit more on elementary ed, special, and early, but I think it could apply across the board, especially be professional. That's number one. Professional dress. Consider this as though you are going in, that you're applying for a second grade teaching position and you're going to meet with the principal. That's how you should be treating this. So professionalism, meaning so dress, how you communicate with your interview team. You may know some of the people in there. And that's great. And sometimes that makes people feel more comfortable. But at the same time, realize this is a professional setting. The other thing to that, be on time. That is extremely important because, and Shelley will send out, so in Shelley's process, we find out how many people are interviewing. She contacts all the interview teams, figures out every interview team's schedule, and then she'll create a Google Calendar, and then you end up scheduling an interview. And know that the interview team's time is set. So if you're late, then you won't interview. So I would recommend being early and definitely being on time because we're doing them back to back to back to back to back. And another point too, and I can't recall if Shelley said it, when scheduling an interview, schedule one time. Do not schedule multiple. Okay, so because we'll only have enough for the number of people interviewing slots. So only do one slot. Now to your question about notes, I would say yes, bring note cards for sure, or your outline or whatever to kind of help you through the interview. However, the thing I wouldn't do is, come up and have the sheet of paper up here like that and just reading word for word. That's not good, okay? So just use it kind of as a guide because it is a nerve-wracking situation. And so it could be, oh wait, what was I gonna say next? Glance down, oh yeah, I was gonna talk about Mrs. Smith, my second grade teacher here. But don't read from it because you wanna be engaged with the interview team. You wanna have that eye contact. It's a discussion and that's what it's meant to be. And to another point as well, and this is really up to you. So, oh, well, never mind. Don't need to worry about that.
Because it's on Zoom.
Yes, I was going to say you could stand or sit, but it's going to be on Zoom. So we don't need to worry about that one, but whatever's comfortable for you. So yeah, so some of those things are a little bit different, I guess.
So the interview is on Zoom? Yes,
yeah. So likely that is the plan is for all of these to be conducted on Zoom.
Mm-hmm. If you have any sort of extenuating circumstance where you need to do it in person, then just reach out to us and let us know, and we'll find a way to accommodate it. But like everything this semester, yes, it most likely will be entirely done on Zoom. And I just pulled this back up just to show when Brad was talking about if you are conditionally admitted for disposition reasons, that's when you would fill out a new outline when you have to re-interview. So again, nothing nothing here would happen until much later. The only piece that you would be thinking about now would be this original interview outline. Sometimes that's confusing.
Yeah, that interview outline conditional is for the disposition conditional. The development plan conditional is for those disposition, and we create a development plan. So yeah. Any other questions?
If the interview is going to be on Zoom, are you required to show your camera?
That's a great question. I am going to say yes, because it is difficult to evaluate some of those dispositions if they can't see you. Again, if there are concerns about that, be it technology, be it whatever. So for history, you could work directly with your program coordinator to figure something out. But the general answer would be yes.
Yeah, and I would say so, and again with history, there could be a different feeling, but part of that interview process is engaging with each other and having that eye contact and having that discussion. So that's part of that process and part of that practice for an actual interview that will occur. That it will be whether it's face to face in person or face to face on a computer screen. I think that's an important part of the interview, and to know that, well, is someone just reading from a script, and instead of actually engaged in a presentation.
And if you wear pajama bottoms, we probably won't be able to tell, but we don't want to see a pajama shirt.
No.
How hard do you think it would be to get an in-person interview?
And again, I don't want to speak for history like Brad has been saying, but for elementary ed, our folks have said, like, if someone needs or very strongly wants that, they're going to make it work. So it would be something that I would presume that the history department would be willing to do, but I don't know exactly how far along they are in planning all of the interviews yet either. So I'm sorry, that was a very not specific reply, but I think we aren't really sure right now.
Yeah, it would be up to the history department. So when you're contacted by them with scheduling an interview, then I would definitely recommend bringing it up if that's what you want.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a tough time getting in touch with any of the history faculty, you can feel free to email me, and I'm happy to help liaise with them. Okay. Or for any of you secondary students. That applies to anybody.
Yeah, I hope folks did see Catherine's message in the chat that Catherine is all things secondary, and I do teach, which no one here cares about, but she is your liaison kind of within the College of Ed and your major too. So please definitely feel free to reach out. Cool. Okay. Well, in that case, if anyone has any follow-up questions, please feel free to reach out to any of us. And yeah, as you get into it, if anything comes up, again, just let us know. We are here, and yeah, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Almost right on time. Look at that.
What